Hello, welcome to Wycliffe Public Library and Miss Laurie's third book talk for tweens, teens, or anybody who'd like to read a good book. Today I want to try something a little bit different and talk about and read from these books that I've chosen for you today. I have 3 books and I'd like to read either the first page or just a little ways into the book so that you get an idea of the situations, a little bit about the main characters, and see if that might get you to hook into reading one of these books. So the first book I'd like to talk about is called Zero Tolerance, and this one is by Claudia Mills. And this one is about a young lady who is self-prescribed pretty much goody two-shoes. The perfect student, the one that teachers love and administrators love. She's just a very good girl. So this situation, the setting right now is that Sierra, the main character, the good girl, is in the cafeteria at her middle school with a bunch of her friends. And this is what happens. Lexi, Sierra's friend, crumpled up her sandwich wrapper into a small, hard sphere and tried to toss it into the trash can, the way the boys did. She missed. "Are you just going to leave it there?" Sierra asked. "I'll get it when the bell rings, on my way out." As if registering Sierra's disapproval, Lexi added, "Look, it's not like it's going anywhere." Sierra hopped up and walked the 10 feet to the trash can, collected Lexi's wrapper, and disposed of it properly. "You can't stand for a piece of litter to be on the floor for half a minute," Lexi teased when Sierra sat back down at the table. "You shouldn't make Sierra throw away your trash for you," Celeste scolded. "I didn't make her do anything. It's not my fault Sierra's so anal." Sierra knew that anal was a psychological term for someone who was compulsively neat and organized, which she was. Well, neat and organized, not compulsively neat and organized. She hated the word, though, and made her think of Luke's nickname for her. Luke was a boy in her class. "Aren't you going to eat your lunch?" Celeste asked Sierra. Sierra opened the Velcro flap on her lunch bag. Hungry or not, she'd better eat something, or her stomach might start rumbling in French class. She opened her sandwich and was about to take the first bite when she looked at it more closely. It was ham and cheese, not plain cheese. She must have grabbed her mother's identical lunchbox by mistake. Sierra hadn't eaten ham or pork or bacon ever since reading Charlotte's Web in the 3rd grade. "Great," she said. "I took my mother's lunch and she took mine." Irritated, Sierra dumped the contents of the lunch bag out onto the table. The loathsome sandwich, 2 oatmeal raisin cookies, an apple, and a paring knife to cut it with. Sierra stared at the knife as if a coiled serpent had appeared from her mother's lunch bag, poised and ready to strike. "Uh-oh," Lexi said. No weapons was the biggest of all the rules at Longwood Middle School. No guns, not even toy guns. No knives, not even plastic knives. For the first time since Sierra had come to the table, Em spoke up. "Just put it back in your bag. It was your mother's knife, not yours. No one's seen it but us." Lexi, who couldn't be bothered to pick up her own trash, quickly snatched the knife and stuck it back in the bag, safely out of sight. "It was just a mistake," Em said. "You took the wrong lunch. It could happen to anyone." Celeste didn't say anything. "No," Sierra said. "The rule says no knives. Period. Not no knives unless you have them by mistake, or no knives except if they're not very sharp. I'll take it over to the lunch lady, and she could put it in the kitchen or in the office, and my mom can come and pick it up when she picks me up." Before she could change her mind, Sierra gathered up the rest of the contents of her lunch, put them back in the bag, and got it from the table. Carrying the lunch bag with the knife inside, she walked over to Sandy, the lunch lady. She would explain everything to Sandy, and then everything would be all right. That was part of chapter 1, so you have all of this in the rest of this book that'll show you that everything really wasn't all right. Zero Tolerance by Claudia Mills. The next book I'd like to talk to you about and read a little bit about is called Fortune Falls by Jenny Gable. This is a story about Fortune Falls, which is a small town where when you turn 12, you take a test that will determine whether you are lucky for the rest of your life or an unlucky for the rest of your life. You cannot change once you have been determined whether you're lucky or an unlucky. And Sadie, the main character in this book, kind of has a feeling she knows what she is. This is the very first page and a half about Sadie. It's called Step on a Crack, Chapter 1. Petey's sweaty little hand wriggled in mine. It was hard to hold on to, like a fish fighting to make its way back into a pond. If we'd been anywhere else in town, I probably wouldn't have cared. I might have let it go. Instead, I said, Petey, stop squirming. Then I reached over and clamped my free hand around his scrawny upper arm, preventing my 5-year-old brother from writhing out of my grasp. When he looked up from under his mop of wayward curls, I tipped my head ever so slightly in the direction of Tommy's mom, Mrs. Mitchell. It was all the reminder Petey needed. Mrs. Mitchell had just dropped Tommy off at the Pot of Gold Child Care Center and was walking away. But even from a distance, it was impossible to ignore the halo cast encasing her head and neck as her fractured vertebrae healed. It might be called a halo cast, I thought, but there is absolutely nothing holy about the medieval contraption screwed onto Mrs. Mitchell's skull. Unfortunately, it was all too common a sight in Fortune Falls. Come on, Petey, I said, collecting myself and turning my attention back to my brother. But Petey's face was now ash gray, the same color as the cement we were attempting to traverse. His small blue sneakers were glued to a solid patch of it, and cracks sprawled like spider webs down the path in front of us. One false move, and somewhere across town, our own mother would feel something in her back snap and crumple to the floor in agony. As I approached the crosswalk in front of Fortune Falls Elementary, a short while later, a commanding red hand popped up on the signal. I waited by the side of the road as a shiny, tank-like SUV with dark-tinted windows whizzed by. I didn't have to see who was riding inside to know that Lucky's had caused the light to change. The vehicle never even slowed. Obviously, they'd expected the light to turn green as they'd approached the intersection. Most lights probably did for them. Sure enough, after the SUV whipped into the parking lot, I saw Ian Silverman vault flawlessly from the staggeringly tall vehicle and land with both feet squarely on solid pavement. Ian had been in my homeroom when we started school back in August, when we were still all undetermined. However, he'd turned 12 in September, which meant he'd been part of the first wave to take the luck test. No one was surprised when Ian passed with flying colors and was transferred to a homeroom for Lucky's only. That's how it would go for the rest of the year. Every few months, a new group would take the test. Those who passed would go from undetermined to Lucky's. Those who failed would be revealed as unluckies. It might not seem like a big deal having to switch homerooms, but that was only temporary. After 6th grade graduation, the Luckies would move on to Flourish Academy, a day school. On the other hand, after the unluckies graduated, they'd be shipped off to Baines School for Luckless Adolescents, a boarding school designed to keep the unluckies from endangering those around him. I'd never seen it with my own eyes, but I'd heard it was awful. So that's that. So the story, you'll find out, has Sadie finding out whether she's lucky or unlucky and what she does about it with the help of some friends. Last but not least, Connect the Stars. And this one is written by Marissa de los Santos and David Teague. This book is about two young people who don't know each other, both of whom have what some people might call superpowers. I'm going to read you a little bit about each one of them. Audrey Alcott and Aaron Archer. So Audrey's superpower is she knows when people are lying. So chapter 1, Audrey Alcott. She is a middle school student in Greenwood, Delaware. I was 13 years old and I could have written a book on lying. A Field Guide to Lies and Liars by Audrey Alcott. I never actually wrote it because it would have been just too depressing. But if such a book existed, it would include little facts like this. Drive-by liars shoot out of nowhere and keep talking like it never happened. Red carpet liars dress up their lies in sparkles and accessories. Charity liars are sure they're doing you a favor. Auctioneer liars talk fast. Helium liars squeak. Poison ivy liars scratch. Liars wince. Underwater liars take a deep breath first. Fish hook liars like to watch you squirm. Lost quarter liars keep their eyes on the ground. Birdwatcher liars keep their eyes to the skies. These examples are just a tip of the iceberg. Yes, I was an expert, possibly the world's leading. Not because I did it, I think I'm reading, yes. Not because I did it, because I hadn't lied in years. Not because I'd conducted a scientific study of it. I repeat, I was 13 years old, a 7th grader. I barely had time to finish my homework, much less conduct scientific studies. I was just born with a gift, I guess you could call it. My parents, the only people besides me who knew about it, called it a superpower. But that was most likely just to make me laugh. And let me tell you, there was nothing super about it. I could tell when someone was lying. Not just someone, anyone, to anyone, all the time, every time, without trying at all. I could tell if someone was lying the way your typical person could tell if someone's laughing or doing jumping jacks. And I'm talking about every kind of lie. Big, small, planned, spur of the moment. White lies, half-truths, false compliments, faked emotions. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who think a gift like that would be awesome. How cool would it be to be a walking lie detector? Not cool at all, especially if you happen to think it's nice to like people, trust people, or have friends. That's Audrey. Think about it. If you could tell when someone was lying every single time, it'd be tough. Chapter 2, we learn about Aaron Archer, who is also a middle school student in Westchester County, Pennsylvania. Here's Aaron's superpower. I can remember almost anything. When I run across a fact on Google or in the pages of a history book or pretty much anywhere else, it goes into a folder on my mental hard drive. If I need it later, I click the folder and out pops the fact. And sometimes facts pop out whether I need them or not. If I hear a symphony or overhear a conversation, I can play the whole thing back in my head, note for note, word for word, like it's streaming over the internet from a giant data server in rural Oregon. Except it's not in Oregon, it's in my brain. Most people think it would be great to have an onboard computer like mine, and I can see how you might get that impression. Automatic hundreds on every test. No pesky studying, right? If only things were that simple. I'm not complaining, my brain does come in handy. If you need to know all the vice presidents in chronological order, or the definition of onomatopoeia, or what the 14th element on the periodic table is, then I'm your man. In first grade, when Hardy Gillooly picked me to be on his football team at recess, I dropped 6 straight passes, and he got sort of mad. But after I recited every single Heisman Trophy winner since 1932 at lunch, he forgot all about it, and we've been best friends ever since. On the other hand, if you want to know something that's not written down anywhere, like how a king might feel about his kingdom, or the true meaning of a poem, well, I'm coming to that. That's his superpower. Again, that was just the very first and second chapter of this book. what happens is that both of these main characters, Audrey and Aaron, do something because of their superpowers that lead their parents to make them go to a desert, it's a desert camp, wilderness camp. And there they have to work with others, and having their superpowers makes it difficult to do them in order to survive. Connect the Stars, Zero Tolerance, and Fortune Falls. Give them a try. I think you'll love them. Have a great day.